Welcome everybody to the Network Plumbing Working Group meeting for Thursday, March 25th, 2021. Over to you, Doug, for regular business.
All right, thank you, Dan. All right, it looks like we do not have any member or maintainer candidates, but we do have a project candidate. Tal, thanks for joining. A while back, Tal had given a presentation at the Multis maintainers meeting. I'm pretty sure it was the one where he had come up with a Multis cuddle utility that had a number of features, but the one that stuck out to me at least was that it provided a way to bootstrap your cluster with Multis. Tal has also worked on a number of other net attached F related work. So one of which is called KNAP, K-N-A-P, which is like an abstraction layer for net attached Fs. And provided a way to like dynamically generate net attached Fs in a opinionated fashion. It's pretty cool. But anyways, that's just my preamble. Tomo suggested that that maybe we could have some maintenance help for Multis cuddle instead of having it as part of the main Multis repo, and it could have its own life cycle and development trajectory as well. So we thought Network Plumbing Working Group might be a good home for it. Tal, is that a good intro, or is there anything else you'd like to add?
Hi, thanks. That's a good intro. Yeah, I just added the links so you guys can check it out. I did the tool itself, because I didn't really know what its feature would be. It works fine for my uses, but there are probably things that could be added. I do make sure that it's updated and tested with latest versions of Multis and latest versions of Kubernetes, but otherwise haven't been adding features. You can look at the README, the link. I can share my screen too. I don't think I need to. I'm sure you guys can open links, and you can see what features it has. So other than installing Multis, and by the way, it installs Multis programmatically, doing the same thing that you would do if you use the manifests that are included in the Multis repo that are the recommended way to install. It does, however, now only use the default installation manifest. I know we have a bunch there. There's ones for Cryo and I think 2 other environments. So this could obviously be fixed by just adding some sort of CLI flag that tells you which version you want to install. Yeah, it's a work in progress. There's more features to be added, but if it does get accepted, and I'm stepping up to maintain it and make sure that it's up to date and in line with the Multis project. So even though it'll be a separate repository, I'll make sure that it's in line with the main repository. I do have questions though about testing and how you do integration testing for Multis, and if you would want the Multis cuddle utility included too.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in adding tests on either side or both if it makes sense to do an end-to-end test so that changes in either repository would be reflected, or maybe even something like a nightly run so that we'd get some some like canary type output that something had gone awry. But yeah, we usually do it project by project, and it's up to the maintainers. And as per the rest of the universe, it seems that GitHub Actions seems to be the darling of the moment. But yeah, I'd be happy to work with you to get that kind of stuff together for sure.
Thanks. Yep.
So I got a quick question. So I think Network Plumbing Working Group would be the right place for this, because that was one of the initial statements or questions. But a question, why would this not go directly into the Multus repo? Because I mean, if it were to be used for other things, I could see it as its own, but since it's directly tied to Multus, and wouldn't you want it like right there? So as new features are added to Multus, people would say, oh, I got to update this too to make sure it's added, or it's just more of a question.
Billy, I would tend to agree with that. I think that one of the things that Multus might be missing right now is a download button, right? If you go to Multus's homepage, there's instructions on how to install it, and of course it would download the image from I think it's from Docker Hub or Quay. I forget where they're stored by default, but it would definitely be friendlier for people, I think, to have a command line utility to get a quick entry. But yeah.
Okay, so I guess it's more of a Doug Tomo question, and I'm not pushing one or the other. It just seems to me that if it's directly tied like that, it might be useful to have it directly within Multus. So, just thoughts on that.
So I'm thinking that so currently the how do I say? So looking at the Istio or looking at the other stuff, so they are like, for example, the Kubernetes. So well, for example, the Istio is as far as I know, under the Istio organizations, there's lots of repository, and then each repository have their tools, I think. So and then also even though the Kubernetes, the Kube add-on, as far as I know, maybe they also have the separate the repository. And then I'm just thinking that, so, and then looking the how do I say? I would like to divide as in the small granularity. I mean that. So the Multus uses the network attachment definition client, and which is in the separate repository in the same organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So the Multus, so the as far as I remembered, nowadays I don't touch with the Multus couple. So if I saying wrong, please correct me. But also the Multus couple is the helping to introducing the Multus or the touching with the network touch def. So this means the Multus couple may downloading the binary, but not the directly call Multus API. So that maybe the Multus couple may call net attached definition client. So maybe that's why so that we could saying that from the functionality point of view, we could making the separate repository, and then this also the how do I say? This makes the easy maintain for updating some vulnerabilities the library, right? So if some library is the target, and then we may need to only one or two repository, not the big repository. So that's the my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid it might slowly get out of sync because features are added to Multus, and it's kind of a side repo, so it doesn't get hit or updated as often. But I can go either way. It was just wanted to open it up for discussion.
I think Tomo has a good point. Good points there. The Multus ecosystem might continue growing beyond just kubectl. There might be other things as well. So, if this is the first time that the ecosystem is growing with other tools, it could make sense to make this a rule of thumb that new tooling would be a separate repository. As long, I would say this is fine from a user perspective, as long as we update the main Multis README that would direct you to that project to download as well. And it's probably worth discussing too, looking at the Multis documentation and to see if it's worth adding examples using Multis Cuddle.
So how about so I'm just thinking that we are going to have the some, how do I say, top web pages for Kubernetes network plumbing working group, because now, as far as I counted in the 2 months ago, 17 or 15 repository is under the network plumbing working group. So that maybe we could add the new web pages for how do I say, top pages for the Malthus world or these stuff, and then we could add the some how do I say, more general document for beginners to get in touch with our component. Not only the Malthus Kato, also the Malthus network policy or SRB stuff as well. So they are so they from the Malthus repository side, I'd like to, how do I say, I'd like to describe the README, describe only the Malthus things, and then nowadays we also have there some questions about the quick start, the description. So maybe now is a good time to moving. So let's think about the first create the some top pages for our these stuff, and then adding the quick start of these stuff, and then removing the quick start from the Malthus README file. Maybe this may solve these stuff, and also we could add the quick start for each tools. I mean that my kubectl multinet commands to easy to showing the IP address, and then also the easy to see the how to install SRB, device plowing, or these stuff as well. So what do you think about that?
I'll give. Go ahead, Billy. For sure.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, maybe not have a full like paragraph or page talking about it, but at least I think you still from Multis need a back pointer to the other README, just so that someone who's new and trying to figure out Multis, who drops right into Multis, can find this and other like quick start. So yes, I totally agree with you, Tomo. That would be good to move maybe the quick start up a level, but I still think you need some pointers in your README to both the quick start and this Multis Cuddle project so that they can find their way over there.
Yeah, and I'll give a +1 that I think that this contributes to lowering the barrier of entry, and I think it does follow a model that we see with these other tools like Istio Cuddle and kubectl, that here's a utility that's specific to what you're working on, and instead of being like, hey, I have to introduce you to 4 different concepts in order for you to use this, it's like, here's a util, here's the high level things that you need to do it. I think that those are really good, and as Tomo mentioned, we definitely need some higher level, entry level documentation, and I think that this definitely contributes to that. Yeah, going back to the repo question, I think that maybe the thing to do is to start with it in its own repository. If for some reason we see that there's like a lot of drift between the two, then maybe we would think about a tighter integration. But I kind of like the idea of letting them have, I think that the like command line utility is going to have kind of a different set of dependencies. And one thing that we may consider doing too is improving the use of Multis as a library to like meet the needs of something like this. as need be. And then, for example, there are certain things that we already do have, modularized and useful as a library, like the net attached def client library, for example, right? Anyways, that's my my thoughts on it. But yeah, for sure, I think that one of the goals would be to improve the introductory documentation on whatever level that happens to be. So if that's new documentation that comes out of the network plumbing working group, if it's just the introductory paragraphs or the quick start on Multis, that's great. But yeah, I like the idea of that. And I do like the idea, especially of having a network plumbing working group introduction to this that maybe gives you a opinionated path for here's how you may move forward with this. Something that so one of the kind of the challenges with Multis that we've sort of changed in our documentation approach over the years and the requirements for the quick start. And the quick start really is a quick start. It gives you an example of how to install Multis. And we figure that probably in most production scenarios, you're going to need to customize that installation to match your situation. Something that we used to do in the quick start is we would install Flannel for you as a default network. And it's the default network that is kind of the most challenging part from the in the Multis docs. And it's one of our most popular community questions is, how do I do this with Calico? How do I do this with Flannel? How do I do this with this, that, and the other thing? And so we do have our reference deployments repository, but maybe there's, I could certainly see Multis Cuddle kind of easing the pain for some of that stuff, where, you could go to do Multis Cuddle, provision or whatever it happens to be, and it could tell you, hey, you don't have a default network. Do you want to visit this webpage and we'll give you some options of what you can do here? Something like that, which, the Multis daemon set as it is now, it's a little bit of chore to actually figure out that information. It's not so straightforward. It doesn't just tell you, hey, you don't have a default network. So these are some of the pain points, and I think that this is something that could help out there.
Yeah. And
So, go ahead.
So let me add the additional feedback from the community side. So currently Multis have the quick start section for the stuff, and sometimes is some user is asking me about hey, they are following the quick start, and then we'd like to do a maintain or upgrading or some various life cycle, and how to do that. So to me, at least, the quick start is not just a quick start, not the perfect step to everywhere. So quick start is just for testing the Multis of these stuff. I mean that I install the Kubernetes is a small cluster in the lab or some stuff, and then at that time let's use the quick start. But in case of some production case, of course, the production needs to be considering lots of stuff. I mean that maybe they have the different directory for CNI, and then also the different CNI conf directory. And then at that time, of course, for each deployment, they need to be changing their configuration. And then the quick start is not supporting such the complicated or the diverse configuration point of view. So I hope that the Multis Cuddle things is helping these guys to deploy this stuff is the one possibility. So that.
So Thanks. I'll add the 2 comments. So first, so Doug, as you pointed out, and I don't have that much experience installing Multis on various environments, but you're looking at the install manifest. You're right. They should probably be customizable. If people want to work with different namespaces or certain container params. So my thought is that the kubectl install command, which right now is very simple, can add a lot of flags that let you customize how you parameterize that installation, right? So you could, there'll be, of course, defaults, but that those defaults could be changed. So that might be a friendlier way to install rather than editing manifests that, always worry people that they're kind of moving out of what the standard file is, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, and a number of things I think could be auto-detected too, like Tomo mentioned, like, hey, what's your CNI confter, what's your CNI vendor, stuff like that. I think that it would increase the successful install percentage for sure.
Well, great. I'll rely on you guys to open issues for me and tell me or contribute PRs. I think the code is really straightforward. If you want to improve. Another point, going back to the repo question, I just noticed that the Multis CNI repo has a go.mod at the main directory, and I imagine that is for the operator, right? Operators. So that is kind of a non-starter already for including multi-CTL, because as you noted, Doug, they might have different requirements. So if we do include multi-CTL, it could be a subdirectory with its own go.mod, right? It starts to become a little bit non-standard in terms of how Golang repositories are usually organized, which is not necessarily a problem, but I'm saying that if we decide to put multiple outputs to the same repository, then we probably want to create subdirectories with each with their own go.mod. And then you get into the question, so this is a question I have. So does Multis CNI, the repo itself right now, expose a Go API that maybe other projects can use? So people can import, say, the project and call APIs, or is that just not a use case that happens?
So it certainly happens from SROV perspective, and it's used that way. And also, Tomo has done some kind of forward looking work there by using gopackage.in to make that work a little bit more smoothly. So it is possible, but I would say that it's one of those things that on my list has always been this could use some more improvement. Also, another thing that I have considered previously, and I'm not sure how much this has for legs, but in the context of a container runtime or maybe even CNI 2.0, is there a possibility of like a more direct integration of Multis into something like that, as opposed to just running it as a CNI binary, so that you could do the work, like in a more integrated fashion with CNI itself or a container runtime. So yeah, that's a convoluted way of saying yes, you can use it that way, but does it need improvements? Probably, and it is used that way as well in SRV. That's the gist.
Well, I think that's a strong argument then for separating the repositories, because you get into versioning problems, right? Because if anybody is importing from this repository, the go.mod file will have the version via the tag. But then, if I, for example, need to release a new version of multiscuttle, I would be tied to that tag too. So we would be stepping on each other, right? In uncomfortable ways. Yeah.
So, well, but they are still wondering that how do I say? having the lots of component in the one repository is the lots of dependencies here.
Right.
So this means so even though someone is trying to changing the CNR side, then maybe they need to touching the other report their command as well. So this is kind of the monolithic repository, not the monolithic binary, but the monolithic repository is the kind of the painful, at least to me.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm worried about the versioning, especially because with Multiscuttle, I use the truly excellent Go releaser tool to release my binaries, and it does so much of the work for me. But the Go releaser tool really relies on the fact that you're pointing it to a repository. So I think it could work with subdirectories as well, but it gets the versioning from the Git tags. So yeah, I just think it would be cumbersome. It would require more coordination if we're working in the same same repo. And by the way,
also,
just I'll notice something quickly. I'm sure most of you know, but with Go, the Go compiler is smart enough that even if there are all these requirements listed in go.mod, it's not going to be automatically installing them. It only installs what it needs in order to compile the code that you're actually using. So in that respect, having a go.mod that has, I don't know, a list of 100 different requirements from all the sub-projects that in itself is not a problem. Yeah.
But on the other side, for example, the Maltus or the Kubernetes, they still keeping the vendor directory under this stuff. I mean that once we are changing the Go mode, and then of course we do a Go mode vendor command to introducing this stuff. So yeah, if you adding the vendor directory in the cube, the Multiscuttle, of course this code, the code goes to this stuff as well. So
Right. Yeah.
so that's why there's things, and I also thinking that the Multiscuttle. So how to say? Well, this is not the real issue, but so that so nowadays microservice is getting the familiar or the famous, right? Maybe we should do the same things in the command line or some stuff. Microservice repository.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, just looking again at the API and the interconnections between the different projects. So Multiscuttle actually does not import anything from the Multis CNI.
So GitHub. This is just independent from the models, right?
Right, but it does import from the network attachment definition client repository. So just to point out that
that's awesome. That's the way I think in most cases it should work, is that that's probably where we want to libraryize as much as we can, basically.
Right. I guess my point is that I think Multis already has kind of a mini ecosystem. I mean, technically the network attachment definition client is independent of Multis, right? It could potentially be used for other things. So I think we already seem to have a multi-repo ecosystem here. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then from the so multi-network policy repository, that is provides the network policy features for net-attached-def, and then this also includes the net-attached-def client, as well as the other stuff. So that we have the library, and also the multi-network policy itself have the client library for March network policy CLD stuff. So just for your information.
Yeah, it seems like we're aligned with that it should be, for various reasons, it's best if it's a separate repository.
Sorry if I sent y'all down a rat hole.
No, it's an important discussion because I think we're kind of setting the setting the rule of thumb for the future as well here.
So I with the time change, not in Europe yet, and I've got conflicts now, so I got to drop for another meeting. So if we're taking a vote, then I +1 it. But if you're going to push it off, then I'll vote next time. But unfortunately, I got to drop. So.
Okay, Catch You Billy. I don't think we have quorum actually, so yeah.
Okay.
All right, catch you later.
See ya.
All right. So, yeah, I think since we only have 2 orgs represented today, that we can't actually make an official vote. I would give my unofficial vote for a yes, so maybe we can make some forward strides. And then we also have another technicality, Tal, that to officially make you a maintainer, your name has to appear on one more meeting. So at any rate, I think that the thing to do is, I think that we've made some key decisions, and I'm not hearing anyone that's, against the idea. I mean, this seems very relevant. I think we can move forward, and we can just get the technicalities worked out during the next session in 2 weeks.
Sounds great to me.
All right, awesome.
Due to the time change, does anybody else have conflicts? If not, I guess we keep going.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I think that covers our regular business, and as I mentioned, no quorum. So Tomo, go for it.
Okay, so just a question about the so I serving the mouse network policy repository, not only the CLD, also the implementation, and then I'd like to know how many people are using the mouse network policy. So just the nowadays when I looking at the mouse network policy repository, there is no issues and no pull request, and then if there's someone is using this stuff, and then I would really want to know their feedback and the issue or some stuff. And then at least I'd like to ask you about in the network plumbing working group community. Do you know someone using the mouse network policy is also welcome? So okay, so if you know someone using the mouse network policy, please let me know offline, or sending an email, or sending the Slack, anything at all. Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Tomo. Yeah, I'm realizing that probably that time zone oddity has not helped participation this week, because yeah, it looks like we have no Europeans on the call today. Thanks, Tomo. And then mine was just a quick note too, that just about some future looking stuff, but and a thanks to Abdullah again for his presentation. And I've still yet to make any strides on the multi side with some implementation there, but as I move forward, which hopefully happens within the next few months, kind of a time frame for dynamic attachments, that I'll feed it back to the group and see how we're looking, or see if there's any spec updates that are necessary. I know we really considered this case in the beginning, so I think that we should be good. But just wanted to bring that up, and then hopefully at some point here, I know Tomo has had a big focus on multi-network policy, but a return to service abstraction as well. And that's all I've got.
All right. Thanks, Doug. And that is the end of the agenda. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to talk about?
Well, if no one says something, I'll say something. So I sent it to Doug now. I started to sort of this more presentation now to look at the semantics of Kubernetes networking, with the idea sort of to see, does the semantics change of the sort of when you add in more networks and when you add in overlapping address spaces and so on. And my conclusion is that it really doesn't. So I can present that at some point in the future.
Sure. Sounds good. I'd like to see that.
I can send what I have to you now, and we can bounce it back and forth a couple of times.
Sure.
Awesome. Just saw that in my inbox. Thank you, Pear.
All right. Anything else? If not, thanks everybody and have a great rest of your day.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks again, Tal.
Thanks. Bye.